Kia ora koutou. My name's Kerry Dougall and I currently manage the Kōkiri Marae Māori Women's Refuge. We're based in Lower Hutt and Seaview. I'd like to just, say that this has been a really good opportunity, up to this point to actually hear, I guess for me, a lot of it has been around that critical analysis of the RJ process and the pros and cons. And so, just getting different perspective of what works and what doesn't work, why it might not, why it does, and to get a better understanding about the impact that it can have, either on the negative or on the positive side. So just wanted to acknowledge that. What I wanted to start with was actually our mission statement. So our mission statement is for violence-free whānau hapua niwi, and kind of just talk a little bit around how we try to achieve that and how we see the RJ process, within family violence, I guess. So kind of, throughout the day, furiously been writing down notes, trying to think of what am I going to talk about, how am I going to address all these different things, and I've got all this, written work on the paper, and kind of, I guess I got to a place where I thought, actually, for me, and the work that we do, there's two parts to, well, there's probably more parts, but in particular what I wanted to, what I wrote down was the two parts to family violence. So in family violence, there's the act. So there's the, the immediate act of the, of the perpetrator doing the violence against, his wahine. And I talk about this from a wahine and a tamariki perspective because that's who we work with, and so that is the area in which we work within. And so you have all the immediate things that you have to address at that time. So you've got the danger, the risk, the trauma and the safety. Then the second part of that, which is the part where there's less investment, I guess, is the historical generational stuff. And so I kind of thought, well, that's where we need to, for us as a refuge and working with Māori, that's where we need to, of course, we need to address the issues as they come up. When the act occurs, we need to, respond to the act. But actually, the work that we need to do is in the historical generational, and in order to make any types of change that are sustainable, then that's where we need to do a lot of our focus work. So kind of what we look at within that as well, so the historical generational stuff that comes into all the family violence is that actually recognising and understanding the impact of colonisation, and recognising and understanding the impact of the imposing of another culture's worldview, and how that has impacted significantly on Māori, whānau hapua and iwi, and the introduction of family violence into our systems, into our worldviews. So what we look at within that is actually how can we reclaim our own te ao Māori worldviews? How can we support whānau to actually have strength to understand that this is something that has been introduced as part of our culture? It's not actually part of who we are, it never has been. And what is our response to trying to, I guess, meet our mission statement? So some of the things that we've looked at over the years, and working in refuges, it is predominantly always been about women and children, but for our refuge in particular, because we're coming from a Māori context, and because we also work really closely with Kōkiri Marae in Seaview, was looking at actually how can we work with the whole whānau, and how can we try and show how the change needs to happen, what sorts of things can we do around behaviour change. Because some of the things that we all know, and I know we'll all agree to, is that the violence is never going to stop unless he changes his behaviour. But actually, what can we do to support that change of behaviour? If we look at from a refuge perspective, we're involved in whawaias, we're involved in the polls. So, part of our process is we get all the poll work in, we contact the wahine and, talk to her about what services and support she might need, but actually nothing happens with him unless he goes through the prosecution area. And even then, nothing may happen with him. So kind of what we've been doing is looking at, so what's our role and what's our responsiveness in terms of trying to make sustainable change for whānau within our community. So what it's led us to, I guess, is creating, so what we've decided to do actually in conjunction with Kōkiri Marae is we've decided to invest in some different ways of doing things, some innovative ways of doing things. We looked at, so traditionally, what were the roles of tāne, what were the roles of wahine, and actually how do we, in refuge in particular, how do we role model that to our wahine? How do we show what's safe, what healthy, what positive relationships look like when all we're doing is working within the structure of woman? And that's actually not a Te Ao Māori worldview either. So we looked at how can we support that by actually showing that this is the way that that things can be, that this is what healthy looks like, this is what positive looks like. So we, Kōkere Marae and the Māori Women's Refuge, we run different programs. We have for years. Refuge runs Whakauho Wairua, which is a domestic violence program for helping our wahine understand domestic violence. Kōkere Marae has always run a Te Ao Marama anger management or understanding anger for women, and Tamatū Tama Ora, which is an understanding domestic violence for men. What we looked at was actually how can we work together more collaboratively so that we can address the impact that family violence has on our whānau within our community. So we decided, let's do a combined effort and try and address this collectively. We're also part of a whānau ora collective where we have 7 organisations, so across that, how can we make a collective impact with the whānau that we work with within our communities? So we've developed a way of working, I guess, where now in our refuge we've employed male and a female, and they co-facilitate all of our programs. Because what we wanted to do was actually show this is how healthy, positive relationships look. This is how you can challenge somebody safely. This is okay to have a voice. This is how our wahine can ask a man the questions that she can't necessarily ask her tāne. You know, all of those sorts of things. What we've also done with that was looked at for our polls work, so all the family violence work that comes in from the police. We needed to be able to address the perpetrator, to talk to him, to find out, you know, what sort of supports does he need, where can we get him some help, you know, to change what's happening for him. And so that also has become, we've incorporated that into our program facilitators' work, so that they're responsible for contacting both for Māori, and this is just for Māori because that's our group that we work with. They contact the tāne and the wahine off the pole and talk to both of them about some sort of supports that they need, and do a follow-up with that, you know, and look at how we can engage them in something around changing their behaviour. I'm getting worried about the time because you keep looking at it. Oh. And so, how long do I have left? 2 more minutes. Okay, I better talk quick. So, so that's kind of some of the stuff, I guess, that we've been looking at, so that we can reclaim our own traditions, reclaim our own worldviews, and start to, I guess part of that tool for us too is around decolonising our whānau as well and allowing them to reclaim what traditionally belongs to them. It's their birthright. Okay, quickly. So I guess what I wanted to talk about too very quickly was just so something that I'd written down was also too, when I hear everybody's kōrero and I look at, you know, the impact that family violence has had on Māori and the introduction of imposed worldviews and colonisation, is that actually I think that there is a responsibility of the Crown through the treaty to actually resource this, because it has been something that has been imposed. It's something that has been done to as a people. And so, yeah, I just kind of was thinking about that before and thinking that actually, yeah, there should be some sort of resourcing support to reclaim the non-violent Māori worldviews. I think funding is always an issue for everybody, but I think sometimes we invest in the wrong areas and the wrong levels. So we tend to invest in policy and, you know, and all of those researching and all of that sort of stuff, but actually never usually from a Māori perspective. Usually the research that we do is overseas, no offence, you know, for when we bring in overseas models, but actually we've got our own models that work within our own culture, and we never seem to invest any money into, you know, actually resourcing that as a evidence-based model that actually works. I can think of, we could do something in Rotorua. Obviously they've done, you know, some really amazing things there. And I actually thought, as as a bit of a challenge, I had thought, even if I look at this particular conference and how this has been set up, and our beautiful judge this morning talked about partnership under the treaty, and actually, when I look at this conference, and no disrespect to the people who have set this up, but I don't see that there has actually been much partnership involved in the setting up, and the speakers and the keynotes and the delivery of information, education and research that's relevant for a Māori perspective. So that was just, no criticism, but I did want to, and my time is up. So, just as a, and one more quick thing, or two more quick things. One more quick thing is that I really want us to think about the words that we use, especially the term victim. I personally find that term quite offensive. I think that term has a purpose and a place, and that's in the policing kind of, court system, but actually it dehumanises our wahine. They're not victims, they're not weak. And so that was just my personal view. And my last thing that I will quickly say is just a little thing that I wanted to leave you guys with, was that you have to be the change you want to see in the world. Kia ora.